invested in your tomorrow.
You're listening to the Smooth Breakfast.
The Smooth Breakfast presents the headlines, the stories, the news, in-depth analysis on national current affairs. Freshly pressed on Smooth 98.1. ARM.
So we're going in.
In your tomorrow.
Very good morning to you and welcome to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. Here we take you through some of the big national dailies, the headlines with detailed analysis for you. My name is Victor Peppel. In the studio this morning, we have Mr. C. Good morning to you, Mr. C.
Good morning, Victor. Good morning, Lagos.
Thank you, Mr. C. And we have Fidel. Good morning.
Good morning, Victor. Good morning, Mr. C. And good morning, Lagos.
Now, you listening can be part of the show, sending messages to us on WhatsApp 0809 444 We are on Twitter at Smooth981FM. Please use the hashtag freshly pressed and we'll take your messages as they come in. I mean, there were a few of them who came in yesterday, but super late. So try to send them in as early as possible before 8 o'clock and would acknowledge your tweets. We're streaming live on YouTube. It's Smooth 981 FM Lagos. You can catch Mr. C live, Fidel as well. Find out if they are smiling, their reactions basically as they analyze the stories. Let's get it started real quickly. We have this story in from This Day newspaper. It concerns flooding here in Lagos. It reads, Lagos flood claimed 7 lives, says NEMA. NEMA, being the National Emergency Management Agency, said that the flooding that occurred in Lagos last weekend claimed 7 lives. So sad, our heart goes out to family members to families who lost loved ones in that incident. In fact, I hear that a particular family, 3 children of same parents, died, and 4 adults, they make up the 7 who lost their lives last weekend. Fidel, let's come to you for this.
Yeah, those kids were Michael, he's 18, Elizabeth is 17, and Timmy is 14. So, I mean, this comes from the heavy downpour that followed the Salah celebrations, the Muslim celebrations over the weekend. I mean, for some people, there was a lot of comic relief. We could see some people swimming in the water. Well, in the flood, I'd call it a flood in the flood and all that. But a lot of it was also a show of how our society or how our environment is, to be honest. And I don't want to just put it on the government. I mean, a lot of it is on the government. I mean, we know that these are seasons, so it is certain that this will happen. So while flooding is something that happens worldwide, it's not a Nigerian problem, right? Uh, our government should understand that while we prepare for the raining season, in the dry season, steps should be taken to ensure that this doesn't happen, or even if it does happen, it's not at this level, and the responsibility is also on us. For God's sake, especially Lagosians, can we not throw plastics in on the floor, in the gutters? If it's not a dustbin or if it's not a trash can, let's hold on to that piece of rubbish and wait till you get to a dustbin. If it's in your car, don't throw it out of the window, because all these things eventually, clog sewage, clog gutters, and also, form what is blocking our drainages, and why we have flooding today. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate.
This time last year, I wasn't in Lagos. I never, even imagined I was going to live in Lagos. But we read about the stories with regards flooding annually. What is the Lagos state government doing so we can mitigate this risk with regards loss of lives and every time it floods in Lagos? Also, a lot of people have to visit the mechanics, and fix their cars
I know
after
I
having
did.
to drive through.
I know I did.
y-
I lost one of my tires over the weekend when all this happened. But like I said, Victor, let's not make it it looked like a Lagos problem. I mean, there was a time when
But we
there
have
was
a drainage problem in
yeah,
Lagos.
we do, but there was a time we had a heavy we had heavy flooding in Niger State, right? We've had it in different parts of Nigeria,
Right.
right? So when there's that heavy downpour, it is almost likely to happen. These are forces of nature, and Lagos is close to the sea, you know. But what I'm saying in essence is the government can do something for Lagos. The government has to do something with drainages. I mean, we saw the other day when in Anambra State, the governor gave orders to you know, the security operatives to take down some buildings that were on drainages, and a very popular character or a very popular figure was also affected, you know. So I think no matter whose ox is God, Lagos State needs to start taking those kind of steps. You know, the guys in construction, our dear developers, you know, they need to take it easy with raising these semi-detached buildings on drainages. You know.
I love it already. Messages are coming in with regards to flooding here in Lagos. We begin with Ezudo from Lekki. He says, every year, Lagosians face the same flooding crisis. Lives are lost, properties destroyed. The local governments and state governments do absolutely nothing. The man responsible for clearing the drainages to help somewhat, Joe Ibukwe, is busy on Facebook abusing Peter Obi. What a joker. Well, FS Mikani says on Lagos and its drainage system, the government the government waits helplessly for the annual flooding when they know the metropolis is below sea level and will require numerous earth dams to collect drains through canals. I'm not surprised about Lagos and its tragic challenges as the successive administrations that have created a mega slum populated largely by lawless people with low civic IQ. Ooh, what a read. Well, Samuel from Lekki says, it is sad to hear of these floodings in some places in Lagos. We have Jay Bukwe as the man in charge of all the drainage systems in Lagos. Is he even working or just campaigning for Tinubu? Also, we see lots of DOMs along major roads on the mainland. Are the PSPs on strike? These DOMs are being washed into the drains. Okay, we stop here for now. I still see your message, Jane and Francis. We'll come back in a bit to take some of your messages. Keep them coming in. 0809 444 0981. Mr. C, in from Premium Times. We're not aware of ex-Boko Haram terrorist employed as prison official. That's the Controller General of Customs of the Nigerian Correctional Service, beg your pardon, Haliru Naba. He's the one speaking. He says we're not aware.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Victor. So, as far back as February 2022, an internal memo of the Nigerian Correctional Service did indicate that there was a suspected ex-Boko Haram member working as a warder in the Nigerian Correctional Center in Yola in Adamawa State. That was in February. Fast forward 5 months, about 5 months later, the CG of the Nigerian Correctional Service says he's not aware. Now, in employing people to work in sensitive locations like a correctional center, which is the same thing as a prison, extra care must be taken to properly vet the individuals you engage as officers there. Now, it is not uncommon to find out that one or two individuals would have slipped through the screening exercise and infiltrated the system. Now, a number of questions come to light. Now that you are aware, what are you doing about it? He refers to an investigation. But forgive some Nigerians for not trusting this investigation because we've heard that several times and nothing seems to come out of these investigations. They just seem to stretch on to infinity and everything is forgotten. Now that this issue has been raised, are they checking the officers being employed in other correctional centers? And this takes me back to the Kuje attack or the Kuje incident. Reports coming out from that incident did suggest and indicate that the people who invaded the correction center at Kuje knew the layout of the facility. and moved specifically to where their colleagues and comrades were being held. And they called out the names, the nicknames of certain warders in that correctional center. So, beyond the Yola incident, will this guy be apprehended? Will he be properly interrogated? And then will we determine and discover how he beats the screening system so that if there are any shortcomings or flaws, they can be corrected?
In fact, the Controller General of the Nigerian Correctional Service is saying that the Kuje attack was a product of insecurity in the Northeast. He goes on to say the prison in Kuje was not fashioned to withstand such heavy attacks launched by Boko Haram terrorists.
I'm sorry, Abuja is in the center, right? The Northeast is some distance away, right? Now, in that incident, what did the armed squad at the prison do? What is the evidence of their pushback or their fight back?
They didn't expect a prison break.
No, it wasn't. A prison break suggests that more often than not, there's an attempt to jump out. But this was an entry.
Okay, so they were attacking to get into, well, a jailbreak or whatever you choose to call it. They were not expecting it. Again, there's a big question here. That is a medium security facility, right? That's what they call it. It's a medium custodial center. Okay. It's not, they have three categories. There are some for low, there are some for high, and this is medium. Okay. Now, the Krikri one I hear is for high, right? The Abuja one is medium, and then we have some, perhaps that in Calabar and some other places are like low risk. And then the big question would be, how do you put, if you claim this is a medium facility, how do you put Boko Haram fighters there? Okay. Also considering the level of security at a medium custodial center.
So the reason why I want to accept that narrative is before the Kuje incident, there had been at least 8 to 10 previous jailbreaks all over the country. And at some point, you should have heightened the security alert around all the other correctional centers. That clearly was not done. We're not sure what improvements or added measures were taken. So it's not enough to come and tell us that the jails were not built to withstand terrorist attacks. In some of the other incidents, dynamite was used. So what lessons did you take away from those incidents?
Okay, quickly, let's break this story in still from Premium Times. Kaduna trade attack. Negotiator denies knowledge of ransom paid to free the 7 hostages.
Okay, so 7 more hostages have been released by the people who abducted the Nigerians on the March 28th train journey from Abuja to Kaduna. Now, he's denying knowledge of any ransom. And it's clear why he's denying knowledge, because under the provisions of the Terrorism Act, if he had admitted knowledge, he would be guilty of aiding and abetting kidnappers. Now, he says all he has done is negotiate with them, and they were released on health grounds. Now, it's instructive that only one paper carried this story of a ransom being paid. No other medium corroborated this account. So the bigger question is, maybe they should have a friendly chat with a journalist of that paper and then get more details as to how they arrived at that conclusion. Yes, they cannot reveal the sources, but they can give some general information because it pertains to national security.
But the report also that Mr. Mamu had told Premium Times on Tuesday afternoon that the report of the ransom payment might have been exaggerated, was not accurate. So that's not entirely saying, no, that maybe they didn't pay. Maybe they paid, but not as much as 100 million.
So the problem with that statement is an exaggeration could go from one end of the spectrum to the other. It could be an exaggeration that any ransom payment was made. It could also be an exaggeration that that amount of ransom was paid. So the problem is we don't know where his statement lands within the spectrum.
Now let's talk about the issue of negotiations, because I do know that Section 3 of the Terrorism Prevention Act of 2013 stipulates that anyone who does arrange, manage, assist in managing, participates, negotiates, or whatever it is liable to about 20, not less than 20 years in prison.
Okay, so yes.
But why do we keep having issues of, there are people negotiating on behalf of these Boko Haram terrorists?
So this section speaks to people who are actively participating and collaborating in terrorist activity. Negotiating the release of kidnapped individuals should not fall into this category.
Well, Section 3C says attending a meeting which is in knowledge to support a prescribed organization also falls under this 20
so
years
Victor,
in prison.
how does negotiating the release of kidnapped individuals amount to supporting a prescribed organization? How? It doesn't, because one, you're not a member. So people have been kidnapped against their will. You are negotiating so that they be released. How does that equate or amount to supporting a terrorist organization?
When huge sums like this gets involved, Mr. C, it looks like you're speaking on behalf of the terrorist and thereby making some other people think this is some sort of lucrative business.
No, so I'm not speaking in support of the terrorists. I hope you're aware that the Red Cross also negotiates the release of kidnapped people. Are you then suggesting that the Red Cross has been actively supporting terrorism?
What the Red Cross does is sometimes give relief materials, especially for those who are sick in captivity.
Victor, I'm telling you for a fact, the Red Cross also actively negotiates the release of kidnapped people. Are you then suggesting that they support terrorism?
Let's take a break. When we do come back, we'll head straight to your messages. Stay with us.
I think this thing is like a lot of Nigerian criminal laws. It depends on who they say. It's like I mean, I say like this: all dogs eat shit, right? But it's the dog that they catch and accuse of eating shit that they say, that dog eats shit. So like a lot of criminal laws, right? Is when you catch the person and say the person actually did it, that the person is accused of. The government negotiates with terrorists all the time. Do you understand? Are we live?
Yes, we're live.
Do you get? So that's the way I see it. That's the way I see it, you know.
That's why Dele is my person, because he's invested in my tomorrow.
They do it all the time. Man. Just when you catch somebody and say this person is negotiating with terrorists.
Visit www.arm.com.ng. ARM. Invested in your tomorrow. Hello, people. This is Frank Donga.
Oh, we're back. My goodness.
All right.
Thank you very much for staying tuned and giving us your morning. This is Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. We're taking it over to your messages on the WhatsApp portal. Francis from Ojo says, I feel like everyone needs to share in the blames and outcome of the Lagos flood. Government barely minimum, then citizens of Lagos careless about the environment. Guess what? Who's going to suffer for it? It's the same folks that throw these trashes in the drainage. George in traffic says, part of the problem is Loma, the sweep into the gutter. Your Abayomi says, are we ever going to be responsible? Did we not protest against sanitation? Why do we throw debts in our gutters? Why build structures on drains and canals? Why reclaim a land and not allow for runoffs? It's not always the government. I quite agree. In Abuja, they demolish houses on the waterways and along the canals. People complain about it, but they keep doing so because they don't want issues like this to happen there. Mary in Festac says, I don't know why the government will anticipate flood rains year in and out, but will not take precautionary acts to prevent these issues. Last Friday, I was in traffic, stuck in flood from Agor to Festac for 3 hours. Meanwhile, this is a 20-minute drive. I think we need our governments to be more proactive than only talking. We need action, please. Mary, I share your sentiments. Fabian from Ekpe says the Lagos state government should take full blame regarding the flooding. They can be more proactive by dredging the canals, clearing drainages, and finding people who pour refuse in the gutter for a start. Nimet gives adequate warning. With the floods, we now have worse roads. I wish the government could be taken to court for this. Fabian in Ekpe sends that message across. Joy Bekwe, Commissioner for Drainage, has been busy campaigning for this bad government instead of doing his work, but Lagosians should stop dumping refuse into the gutters. Some people even dump old motor tires into the gutters. That's Austin in Satellite. He's the one who sent that message across to us. The flood is really unfortunate because no pragmatic actions are done. It's an annual issue. People building on drainages, yet governments place ignorant. They dig out gutters periodically, but take weeks and months to clear them. The citizens are the major cause of this flooding, indiscriminate disposal of refuse. May God help us. Joseph May sent that one across. The messages are just enormous. Well, I strongly suggest to advise that that Nigeria reverts to the term prisons and remove correctional centers. This innovation have proved to be very meaningless in the prison system. Edmond in Satellite sends that one. Ni Ilomo says the perennial flooding of Lagos has shown the failure of successive Lagos governors and civil servants in solving the drainage network problems and refuse collection and disposal in Lagos. The party in power has failed to implement the changes it promised Nigerians in 2014 and does not deserve to continue in power in 2023. I hope Nigerian youths and their parents will come out to vote in 2023. Taking it over to Yinka Bolu, who says, I don't understand. Please, is Joy Bukwe responsible for pouring waste into gutters? Is it Joy Bukwe that built structures close to drainage system? I believe in Festac for years, and there were structures built on places they shouldn't have been. I beg, let's portion blames properly and not by sentiments. Even if it's a medium correctional facility, the jailbreak might still not have been successful. First, why are there trees in front of the facility? These trees are blocking the sight of the watchtower. Secondly, have you seen the height of the watchtower? Third, have you seen the overgrown weeds around the facility? Fourth, was there no man's land before the facility? Fifth, the question goes on and on. Thank you very much, but let's take it back to the stories at this time. Quickly, we come to you now, Fidel, for this one. This one in from just a moment from This Day newspaper. Fishermen seek federal government's intervention over Shell Bonga oil spill. The oil spillage has been on for so long. In fact, I recall having an interview with the Minister of Environment, Abubakar Mahmood, at the time, and he talked about the Ogoni cleanup, which has been on for over 4 years, and he talked about COVID-19 being the reason why they stopped the cleanup, particularly in the Niger Delta. But let's look at this story now. Fishermen complaining. Of course, oil spillage will affect the fishing business in the Niger Delta.
I mean, oil spillage affects a lot of things. It affects health, business, and means of livelihood, even crops. Because this thing affects the soil. I mean, it's sad that in 2022, amongst other things, amongst other problems we've had in this country for years and years. I mean, this is part of the reason why the late Ken Saro-Wiwa died. Because of the injustice and the environmental degradation that goes on in this region of Nigeria. For me, I kind of want to look at it again. I mean, this is about the environment, and with the environment, I don't always push all the blame to government, right? So again, I kind of want to look at this from two channels, right? When it comes to oil spills, yes, there is the negligence of the oil companies. I mean, we see the Association of Fishermen, the Artisan Fishermen Association of Nigeria, calling on the oil companies, ExxonMobil, Shell, and a host of them to do something about the oil spillage and then the gas flaring that goes on in the Niger Delta. However, when we talk about oil spillage, there are two main reasons we have this, right? There's the negligence of the oil companies, whereby their technology or their equipment, breaks down, and then there's a leak. And then there's also vandalization, right? We should not forget that sometimes people go there to damage this or sabotage this property just so that they can maybe leak oil or maybe get some crude to refine locally. This also causes environmental degradation. So, in as much as, yes, the government has a role to play when it comes to, ensuring that the environment of the Niger Delta is well taken care of, we, the people of Nigeria, even the Niger Delta, also have responsibility in that area. And then when we talk about these oil companies, I mean, it's very convenient to say that, you know, they've done their bit. They've given out loans, they've given out scholarships, they've employed locals, but how much? I mean, I don't think it is ever going to be enough for a region that has generated so much wealth for these companies. It can never be enough. I really think they need to do more. I'm not just going to leave it at the bulk of the government, to be honest.
Thank you, Fido. Let's come to you, Mr. C, real quickly with this one in from this day newspaper. 1.12 trillion naira needed to pay proposed ASU varsity workers' wage increase. The federal government reveals. Just a summary of this.
Okay, so very quickly, the ASU-led committee that has been negotiating an increase in wages and salaries of not only ASU members but varsity workers has arrived at a sum of 1.12 trillion naira as a recommended increase, and this represents 109 to 185% increase in their existing salaries. Now, without a shadow of a doubt, it is clear that people engaged in the educational space should be paid properly, because education must be a priority for this country, because the best investments are always found in education. Once you educate people, educate their minds, the benefits will be reaped by everyone in the country. Now, having said that, ASU, for the love of everything good, who gets a 109% increase in salary in this country, given our present circumstances? Who gets a 185% salary increase? Yes, it is good and justifiable to increase your salaries, but the rates and the percentages you have proposed are not realistic. Now, the way around this is to stagger the increases, phase these increases in salaries. We mustn't forget that inflation and the devaluation of the naira has wiped away whatever gain they might have gotten from their previous salaries. Now, what this portends for the Nigerian student is there's still some distance to be covered before an agreement can be reached and schools be reopened. And both parties, that is ASU and the federal government, must be prepared to yield ground so that a compromise is reached that benefits the Nigerian students.
Thank you very much. Let's take it over to your messages again. Real quickly, we have a message from Jane. Says Lagos needs to take responsibility. The blocked drainage, the bad roads, aka wells on the road, and enforce recycling. The prison break is the problem with the government sector. No one has been sacked or sanctioned for ineptitude. They will give excuses till the case is forgotten and the bosses will be recycled or promoted. And goes on, please, how has Section 3 helped the Chibok girls and the train wreck? Why isn't there a law that provides and protects the citizens? Tayo comes in. I'm sure the prison officers used the good name and character to resist the attack. Terrorism Act of 2022. We need good laws, not clumsy ones like Terrorism Act. However, why isn't Gumi considered in the violation of this law? Toying in Surulere says, I believe the only way we can stop flooding in Lagos is to stop the covering of drainages so the water can have way. Most construction work the governments are doing, they cover the drainage and it's not helping at all. Finally, maybe 60 seconds, Fidel, let's touch on this last story to wrap things up. We'll talk about flooding at 9 o'clock today. I see that Lagosians are really interested on this one. Some messages we cannot take. We'll try to take them at 9 o'clock today. Be part of it. Now, Oshun decides 2022. Peace Accord should include commitment against vote buying, ICPC. Isn't this coming rather late? They've signed the accord already yesterday.
I mean, yes, they have, but I mean, we saw a lot of vote buying in Ekiti State. ICPC has addressed it. I'm struggling to find our electoral body INEC's address on this. I'm struggling to find what the two main parties in Nigeria have to say about this. That is APC, who won the Ekiti election, and PDP. I think PDP was PDP the runner-up or SDP? I mean, in Ekiti State. SDP. So, I feel like we need to have Nigerians need to hold these people accountable. I don't know why the citizens in this state, they're not so woke about these things. And when it comes to vote buying, it's something that, I mean, I'm scared because I see even the younger generation. It's not you're not seeing old. It's the younger generation who are selling their votes for coins, for pieces of bread. I mean, it just shows how poverty has been weaponized. But Nigerians, when you go to the polls and you see these kind of things, please, please, please do not sell your votes.
We need to go, Fidel. Thank you very much. You can catch Fidel on Twitter at Izutene and Mr. C at Monsieur C with a triple E. That's it. Quickly, Olusheye Anthony says, it's painful how the government will overlook these disasters and not work towards next year's rainy season. Government can as well place a ban on all this rubber takeaway blocking the gutters. Thank you very much. I promised I was going to take all your messages. I'm trying to do so. Government is to be blamed because it's the government that maintains law and order, not the other way round. And that's from Michaela Online. We have Engineer Strategic sending this one. It says, on the flood, have we looked at the drainage designs and redesigns? I hope the authorities are listening and can answer some of these questions soon enough. My name is Victor Pepple. Let's do this again tomorrow at 7:30 a.m. At 8:15, it will be time for the Grapevine, some big entertainment stories just for you. Thank you for listening. Good morning.
Invest in your tomorrow.
Ooh, that vote buying. Talking about it sometimes can be stressful.
What, Grapevine?
No, vote buying.
Okay, vote buying.
Because